Italy in winter. I crossed this country from the bustling Riviera to the foggy canals of Venezia, along roaring highways and quiet bike paths, beneath sunny skies and over snowy mountain passes. I fought winter winds, witnessed vibrant festivals, and rode through iconic seaside villages, serene forests, and historic cities. And on peaceful nights, I cycled beneath starlit skies. As I traversed through Italy by bike, I found that each day would come with its own surprise and adventure.
About 500 meters into Italy, halfway through a 600-meter long tunnel. Welcome to Italy.
After a short while on the main coastal highway beyond the border, I found myself back on a fantastic bike route on the Ponente Ligure cycle path. Following a former 19th century rail line, I glided along the coast and through a mile-long tunnel with separated cycle and pedestrian paths and walls lined with stories of Italy's rich cycling history. Emerging from the far side, I entered into Sanremo as the evening lights began to glow. By chance, I had arrived on the opening night of the Sanremo Music Festival, Italy's most famous song contest, and the stage that launched many of the country's greatest singers. Around the main venues, the city pulsed with glitz and glamour, but after a quick dinner, I slipped quickly away from the buzz, riding a few kilometers out of town to settle in at a quiet spot along the coast, watching the festival lights pulse across the water. With the sun shining brightly above, I carried on along the Riviera dei Fiori, the Riviera of Flowers, the westernmost part of the Italian Riviera. The cycle path stretched only 24 kilometers, but it was such a joy to ride, with colorful towns spilling down to the sea, and every turn and tunnel portal revealing sweeping views of the Mediterranean in the cold and windy February air.
On the new bike path heading towards Imperia. It's a really nice surface, except today I'm being absolutely brutalized by ridiculous headwinds, so very slow travel.
After fighting the crisp February winds, the bike path came to an end in the city of Imperia, and I was forced back onto the Via Aurelia. Once a Roman road laid down in 241 BC, it is now a roaring modern artery of traffic, stretching nearly 700 kilometers from the French border to Rome. The beauty of the coastline remained, but the frequent narrowing shoulders often left little space to feel safe cycling here. That evening, high above the town of Borgio Verezzi, I found a spectacular perch on the hillside to spend the night. The Mediterranean stretched endlessly below me, while the Ligurian coast glittered with lights beneath the stars and moon. As I continued east, hopping between small-town bike paths and the relentless Via Aurelia, I began to find my rhythm of survival, focusing purely on fighting the sharp February winds between frantic pulses of traffic.
Heading around the coast at Noli. It's windy.
Doing battle with the strong winter winds here was a real challenge, but I soon found moments of stillness again, away from the sharp cliffs of the capes. I also felt a real sense of whiplash, transiting between the busy roads and the disconnected paths here. It may look like I spent most of the afternoon on bike path, but the truth is that the camera rarely comes out on dangerous roads. At least on paths, filming forces me to pause, to breathe, and to treasure the fleeting moments of calm and savor them a little while longer. As the sun set, I arrived in the outskirts of the city of Genoa, and on another chaotic mess of roads and disjointed paths, I navigated my way into the city center, where I was hosted by a friend for a brief but wonderful night in the city. Heading southeast along the coast, my first stop for the day was the small town of Recco. Here I of course sampled the famous focaccia col formaggio, and provisioned on even more varieties of delicious focaccia to carry me through the day. I made a short detour to the church of San Rocco di Camoli, looking back over the coast I'd just ridden, with the city of Genoa fading into the distance. Although I was back on the highway, the riding was a joy. Traffic was light, and the road traced curves around terraced hillsides, opening up to sweeping views of idyllic bays and harbors. From a scenic overlook, the town of Santa Margherita Ligure lay below me, with the legendary village of Portofino just out of sight around the corner. By evening, I reached Sestri Levante. After a quick dinner, I pushed on another 10 kilometers, climbing an easy 350 meters into the hills on quiet road. The campgrounds I'd hoped for were all closed for the season, a recurring challenge in the winter, but I managed to find a secluded spot just off the road to pitch my tent for the night, and was rewarded with a peaceful sleep and views of serene forested hills. The morning air was cold and crisp as I continued the climb up into the hills on a deserted road that was a welcome contrast to the bustle of the coast. After crossing the Passo del Bracco above 600 meters, I began a beautiful descent back down, on serene roads that opened up to stunning panoramas of the snow-capped Apennin Mountains. Back at the coast in the small village of Pianura, I began the Maremonti cycle path. While only 5.5 kilometers long, this path was a stunning converted rail line, primarily in tunnels, with large gallery openings framing secluded rocky coves below. From the town of Levanto, I climbed up once more on peaceful roads, entering the region of Cinque Terre. This UNESCO World Heritage Site is not only breathtaking in beauty, but also a testament to human perseverance. For centuries, villagers have carved agricultural terraces into the steep hillsides and built 5 pastel-colored towns standing mightily on rocks above the sea. Here, nature and culture are woven together into a living landscape, and at every curve of the road, I felt a deeper sense of awe and wonder.
Oh, guacamole. That is gorgeous. Oh, this is absolute heaven. I'm descending now down to Manarola and Cinque Terre. Unbelievably gorgeous.
Manarola, perhaps the most iconic of the 5 villages, rose in a cascade of pastel houses clinging to a sheer cliff above the sea. At sunset, the whole village glowed in golden light. A living postcard suspended above the water. I watched the sunset alongside 100 other tourists, but as soon as the light faded, they all slipped away by train. Suddenly, I was alone in the stillness of February, left with the rare magical gift of silence and solitude in such a magical place. After a steep climb out of the village in the morning, I found myself back high up on the hillsides, riding the peaceful road out of the Cinque Terre region. With one last lingering glance back at the steep hills tumbling into the sea, I disappeared into a tunnel through the hills. Emerging on the other side, the world once again opened to sweeping views of mountains and valleys. And soon, the city of La Spezia sprawled out below me as I freewheeled downhill. Southbound along the coast, a wide bike path carried me through endless towns and past beachside bars and restaurants. The crowds grew, and I soon learned it was festival season. The Carnival of Viareggio was in full swing, with massive parade floats rolling down the streets, visible even from a distance. But unfortunately, it was a ticketed event, and the polizia would not let me even linger at the gate for a better look. So I pedaled on to the quiet of the Bocca di Cerchio Nature Reserve. Here, near the mouth of the Cerchio River, I watched the sun sink into the distant horizon, while the sea and sky began to glow with the vibrant light of dusk. A short ride into the night brought me to the city of Pisa. It was serenely quiet late at night, and I enjoyed the peaceful atmosphere in the Piazza del Duomo, beneath these world-famous landmarks. After spending the night in a local hostel, I got a quick daytime look at the Leaning Tower of Pisa, now much busier with crowds trying desperately to hold it up for their photos, but still nothing like the chaotic experiences I'd heard of in the high season. Navigating some narrow roads and wild Italian drivers out of the city, I soon enough found myself back on bike path, turning back to the northeast up the Cerchio River. In Lucca, I discovered the city's magnificent Renaissance walls, built in the 16th and 17th centuries to defend the city. These walls remain to this day, and form a complete ring of wide tree-lined paths. It was an incredible experience to cycle on top of them, a unique perspective looking out over the roofs of the town and the surrounding Tuscan countryside.
Now this is more the Italy that I like. I'm inland, it's much more chiller.
Along forested paths, ancient cobbled roads, and modern highways, I continued on eastwards. I rode on through the countryside as dusk fell, and then finally settled in for the night at the base of the Apeninnes, at a peaceful spot above Montale, overlooking the fields of Tuscany below. Here I joined up with the Eurovelo 7 route, beginning a serene 1,000-meter climb up into the hills, accompanied by nothing but the sounds of my bike, breathing, and birdsong. It was so nice to be back in the forest for some peace on this incredible climb. At the top of the pass, I crossed a short section of snow and ice, luckily fully iced over for just a brief section at the summit, but otherwise peaceful and passable, just enough to remind me that winter still had its grasp on the hills. Through forests of beech, chestnut, and oak, I descended through the Acquarino Cantagallo Nature Reserve. The road wound blissfully downhill, passing through small settlements and through a land so wild it has even seen a successful reintroduction of wolves to the ecosystem. The ride was beyond magical as the roads opened up to views of the serene Suviana Lake and the expanses of the region of Emilia Romagna.
Absolutely loving this descent. Got a nice winding, quiet road, some beautiful corners with some nice bank turns, and absolutely incredible vistas over the countryside. And it's a nice temperature right now, probably a few degrees above zero. Oh, just freewheeling and loving it. Makes that big climb this morning all worth it. Although that was never in doubt, of course. All right, I'm gonna put some miles in. Correction, I'm gonna put some kilometers in. This is the current state of my shoes. Yeah, it's about time. I was trying to wait until 20,000 kilometers. I think that's about 1,000 clicks from now. I'll be halfway around the world. Seems like a good time to buy some new shoes. This is life right now. It's pretty nice. Wow. Oh, this is glorious. Look at this view.
It was truly such a perfect day. These silent roads were deeply restorative, a happiness born of solitude, away from the bustle and chaos of the coast. I spent the night at a peaceful wild camp near the Reno River, and on a cold morning, waking to frost sparkling on the grass, I headed out on bike paths following the course of the river and leaving the Apeninnes behind. Bologna was once a city of medieval skyscrapers. In the 12th and 13th centuries, nearly 200 towers, some rising close to 100 meters, rose above the city. They were symbols of wealth and status and served as defensive lookouts. Today, only a handful remain, with the most prominent being the two towers of Asanelli and Garisenda. I stopped in the city only long enough to gaze up in awe at the towers before setting off once more, north alongside the Naville Canal, an offshoot of the Reno River. Along its banks, I found peaceful paths and even spotted a number of nutria, aquatic rodents once brought here for fur farming, but now considered an invasive species. I was now crossing the Pianura Padana, the Great Po Valley of northern Italy. The landscape stretched endlessly across flat fields and farms. This is the agricultural and industrial heart of Italy, producing most of the country's grains and dairy, as well as being full of factories, including several world-famous automobile manufacturers. After passing through the city of Ferrara at night, I reached the banks of the Po River, the longest river in Italy and the backbone of the Pianura Padana. Along the southern bank of the river, I followed a wide cycle path on the top of a dike tracing the river's course. In this peaceful setting, I took the chance to ride another 40 kilometers into the night, enjoying the serenity under a sky filled with stars. I camped just before the Po River split into its delta, and awoke to a morning shrouded in thick fog. In winter, this weather is common, as cold, humid air settles low across the valley. My choice to ride late into the night was quite a wise decision, it seemed, as I experienced far better views under the stars.
Good morning. It's a beautiful morning ride along the Po River into the Po Delta. Here we can see the river over there. Gorgeous sun, sparkling waters today.
Leaving the bike path, I crossed the Po River on a busy highway, but soon enough found myself back at the foggy coast, arriving in the town of Chioggia to catch a ferry into the Venetian lagoon. The first ferry hop was a short one, carrying me to the island of Pellestrina. I followed quiet bike paths along the lagoon for the length of the island before boarding a second ferry to the island of Lido. Together, these two islands form the natural barrier between the Venetian lagoon and the Adriatic Sea. Finally, I caught my third ferry of the day, leaving Lido and arriving in a very foggy Venice. Because the islands are more than 90% only pedestrian or boat access, I arrived by ferry to the Gateway Islands, where not only the train stations, bus terminals, and carports are situated, but also an underground bike parkade, with 100 lockers available to use. At €10 for a 24-hour period, I considered this an incredible deal, offering a safe place to leave not just my bike, but the majority of my gear. Taking only one pannier with the essentials, I boarded the Vaporetto, the local public water bus, to transit to and check into a hostel for the night. I awoke early in the morning to explore the city. I was fortunate enough to have arrived during the famous annual Carnevale di Venezia, a celebration where the city fills with visitors and dedicated carnival goers celebrate tradition and show off in intricately woven costumes and ornate masks. It was an incredible marvel to witness, a living theater set against the foggy backdrop of the canals and historic city. The canals and sights of Venezia were absolutely magical, and I fell easily in love with the city. The diffuse sunlight through the winter fog softened the light, adding another element of dreamlike beauty to the city. I would have loved to stay in Venice longer, but with the weekend carnival events approaching, even a bed in a 20-person dorm room was becoming out of budget for the next few days. And so, I returned to the bike parkade, repacked my gear, and set off back on a ferry across the Venetian lagoon, into the foggy night, to venture further into northeast Italy and onwards towards Slovenia.